Today, we're going to dive into a pretty fascinating thought experiment. We're going to explore how one single piece of technology, just one, could set off a chain reaction that completely remakes the world as we know it.
And it all starts with this one simple question. Just think about it for a second. What if all the car crashes that happen every single year just stopped? Poof, gone. What would that world actually look like?
To figure this out, let's follow an idea. It starts with a woman named Hannah Kim, who's a really sharp investor working on Wall Street. And her idea? Well, it's like a tiny pebble that's about to be dropped into a huge, still pond.
So, picture this. Hannah's walking down Wall Street, and she sees an ambulance, lights flashing, pulling away from an accident. It's a scene we've all seen, right? It's tragic, but it's common. But for an investor like Hannah, it sparks this huge what if. What if this entire scene and everything that comes with it just never had to happen again?
And this is the key. The whole idea is built on this one projection. The fully autonomous driving tech could be 100 times safer than a human driver. Now, that's not just a little bit better. We're talking about a complete paradigm shift, a world where human error on the road is basically a thing of the past.
Okay, so if you get rid of accidents, you start a series of waves, right? And the very first, most obvious ripple smacks right into a massive industry that's built entirely on the chance that those accidents might happen. Yep, I'm talking about car insurance companies. You know, the big names, Slate Geico. Their entire business, the whole thing, is based on calculating the risk of you and me making a mistake behind the wheel. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry built on everything from little fender benders to awful collisions.
But in a world where there are no accidents, well, what is there to insure? The main reason for this entire industry to even exist gets wiped out practically overnight. Now, liability wouldn't vanish completely, but it would shift, away from millions of us drivers to just a handful of big tech companies. It would create a totally new and way, way smaller kind of insurance market.
But the ripples don't stop there, not even close. The next one spreads out and hits an area that's maybe less obvious, but the impact is just as huge, our healthcare system.
Think about it. A massive chunk of the people who end up in the ER get there because of a car accident. We're talking everything from minor injuries to life-threatening trauma. It's this constant, unfortunate flow of patients that really dictates how emergency rooms are staffed, how they're funded, and how they operate day to day.
And if you take that away, the consequences are just staggering. Without that steady stream of accident victims, the ERs that we know today would have to completely change. They'd probably shrink, maybe even disappear, forcing hospitals to totally rethink their business model. It would completely alter the landscape of emergency medicine.
So, as Hannah goes about her day, moving from the crazy intensity of Wall Street to a run over in Brooklyn, these little ripples she's been thinking about, they start to combine, and they form something much, much bigger, a tidal wave. One that could literally redefine the ground beneath our feet.
And that's when she realizes this isn't just about cars. Full self-driving, or FSD, it's just the first major example of what you'd call physical AI. That's AI that can actually move around and interact with the real world. And its impact goes so much further than just making us safer. And this right here, this is the absolute core idea of that massive wave. For centuries, we've lived by one rule in real estate. Location, location, location. But what does location even mean when the time, the stress, and the cost of getting from point A to point B basically drop to zero? Let's just break that down. Today, an apartment near Wall Street costs a fortune because it's close to work. Brooklyn is valuable because of its commute time into Manhattan. But what happens when your commute in a self-driving car becomes productive time or relaxing time? Does living an hour away even matter anymore? The entire logic of how we build and value our cities could be turned completely upside down. So later, back at her apartment, looking out at that incredible New York skyline, Hannah brings all these huge abstract ideas down to one personal conclusion. How do you even begin to navigate a world that's about to change so fundamentally?
Her thinking is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. First, you have to accept that a massive technological wave, like physical AI, is coming. It's inevitable. Second, you have to understand that its effects aren't going to be small. They're going to be revolutionary. And third, the absolute best way to not get crushed by that wave is to ride it. And you do that by investing in the companies that are building this future. It's a way to watch the world change, not with fear, but with real excitement.
And that kind of leaves us with one final big question. We've just walked through the potential impact of one single application of AI, but we all know this is just the beginning. So the question to really think about is this. If self-driving cars are just one little ripple, what's going to be the tidal wave? What's the truly society-redefining change that's coming from the next generation of AI?